Welcome to the hardest working and happiest committee in the Nevada State Legislature, the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs. Will the Secretary please take the roll?
Assemblyman Carter.
Present.
Assemblyman DeLong.
Present.
Assemblyman De Silva.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran. Here. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Here. Assemblyman Gurr. Here. Assemblyman Hibbets. Here. Assemblyman Koenig. Here. Assemblyman MacArthur. Here. Assemblyman Nguyen. Here. Assemblywoman Taylor. Present. Assemblywoman Thomas. Here. Chair Torres.
Welcome to the audience here in Carson City, those joining us in Las Vegas and those listening over the internet. Bienvenidos a la audiencia aquí en Carson City y los que están con nosotros en Las Vegas. Good morning. I actually understand that today is basically a holiday. Did you hear that? Today is our good friend, Assemblyman Koenig's birthday. So if we could just join me in wishing him a happy birthday. We don't get holidays off in the legislature. Additionally, and while I do not know who our colleague's father is, it is also the 4th of May. So may the 4th be with you as we honor Star Wars today. So it's a big day here in the legislature. We do have 2 pieces of legislation. And we are going to go ahead and begin. We're going to go in order today. So we're going to go ahead and start with SB 23, which authorizes an amendment of a redevelopment plan to include the removal of an area from a redevelopment area under certain circumstances. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open the hearing on SB 23. When you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Warren Hardy today representing the city of Boulder City. I have with me Taylor Tedder, who is the city manager, and Brittany Walker, who needs very little introduction for most of you, who is our council. The SB 23 before you today is designed to make a very simple correction to an unintended consequence to a 2017 bill that inadvertently locked some residential area into our redevelopment area. Therefore, the funds that are generated there have to go to the redevelopment area instead of to the police, fire, and social services where they're needed to serve those residents. So if it pleases the chair, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Walker for the presentation, and then we'll stand for any questions.
And welcome back, Ms. Walker. When you're ready, please begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman, members of the committee. Brittany Walker, City Attorney for Boulder City, for the record. Just as Mr. Hardy explained, this is a very limited change. It would allow a redevelopment agency only in a city with a population of less than 25,000 to remove land from the redevelopment area in one limited circumstance. And that's when the land is primarily residential and the city council makes a finding that the property tax revenue is better suited for traditional property tax purposes. So the primary reasoning behind this bill is when we first formed the redevelopment area many years ago, we included a lot of vacant land that has since been developed. One such development is a new residential development, so it doesn't fit the spirit of a redevelopment area, and the property tax revenue is going toward our redevelopment fund, and there has been a lot of criticism from the community about that, and we do believe that our city council believes that property tax revenue would be better suited for public safety and funding schools. So that's the limited change this bill would make, and we are available for any questions.
Members, any questions? I do not believe that there are any questions at this time.
Madam Chair, if I may, Warren Hardy for the record. I understand there's a proposed amendment from our friend Mr. Goldwater. We obviously at the City of Boulder City want to be good neighbors, want to be able to accommodate his concern. However, we do want to indicate that we understand how sensitive it is to open the redevelopment statutes. We've endeavored to make this as narrow as possible to be able to address our concern. We're happy to help accommodate the request. However, if it puts the bill in any kind of jeopardy, obviously we would be concerned about the amendment that's being proposed. So we want to be good neighbors. We want to work along, but we're hoping that it doesn't jeopardize the bill.
Thank you. And before I take a question from a committee member, I will let the committee know that I will invite the City of Henderson to come up and kind of present that amendment to the committee, and then we can ask questions that pertain specifically to the amendment to the City of Henderson at that time. But are there any additional questions for the team here at Boulder City? Assemblyman DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. Just to make sure I know what version of the bill we're talking about and whether or not we've actually seen the amendment. I assume we're looking at the second reprint is what we're speaking to today?
So Chair Torres, through you to Assemblyman DeLong, we are looking at SB 23 first reprint. Or there, no, actually, I think you're right. It is the second reprint. The first reprint is at the dais, so I apologize. Yes, the second reprint.
Okay. And we haven't seen any amendment yet. Correct? This is a question maybe to Boulder City, but also maybe to staff. Have we seen an amendment?
Yes. That's all I was saying to Tars for the record. So the amendment was received. I don't know that it has been posted on Nellis. Mr. Goldwater has it been submitted. So I think they're going to kind of walk us through that amendment today. And then we'll have the opportunity to ask questions. And no worries, rest assured, the amendment language is we're not going to work session this week. So you'll have plenty of time to continue to look at that language before we have a work session.
Thank you, Chair.
And I will request that after the presentation today, if the city of Henderson can probably just share the memo that was shared with me, if we could just release that out to the committee members, I think that would probably be helpful, so that you all could have that. I do intend for it to be as transparent as possible.
Thank you.
I think that's all. Thank you. They're going to come. All right, at this time, I'll go ahead and invite the city of Henderson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is David Goldwater. I represent Pinion Public Affairs. I'm here on behalf of Lakemore Canyon, which is a development in the city of Henderson. It's a redevelopment project. The language is fairly simple in this case. We are requesting to change one number on a specific date that's in the statute, and allow me to give you a little bit of background. Those of you from Southern Nevada have probably driven out to Lake Mead or Lake Las Vegas. Directly south from the entrance to Lake Las Vegas, you might have remembered there's a place where they sell boats and the like. On the other side of that business, if you jump the fence, you would find two giant pits where before or during World War I, they mined manganese, which is an additive to steel, and then they shipped it to Pennsylvania to make guns and war material for the United States. That mine was shut down in 1972, and it has sat as a toxic site ever since. A clever bunch of businessmen, along with the city of Henderson and Senator Reed, came up with a plan to fix this toxic site where it's tailings, diesel tailings, diesel fuel, and tailings from the mining operation. The deal was, in most simple terms, Senator Reed passed a bill that said, if you guys clean up this site, the federal government will grant you this land. And in order to pay for this cleanup, we use, as everyone on this committee is familiar with, tax increment financing. So you have the city doing a redevelopment site, a private company coordinating the whole thing, the state of Nevada overseeing it, the Division of Environmental Protection, and the federal government, and it's their responsibility to clean up the site, having made this deal. That is a good one. This was something, a keystone of Senator Reed's, the late great Senator Reed's tenure, and he was very proud of this accomplishment. We have worked on this, not only in this body or throughout the state government, for the past 15 to 20 years. There is a statutory scheme in here that is very particular. Now comes the good part. One of the requirements is that the land be conveyed, as you can see in 279.4392A, in 15 years. Because of as we were reviewing the status of this project coming into the legislature, one of the city attorneys in Henderson was concerned that we were going to run up against this 15-year deadline, and we needed a couple more years. The request then is to change that to 18 years. Very simple change. There's no adverse parties to it. That's a very simple request on an otherwise many moving parts project. I know it's a lot to digest. The reason is that this came to our attention late in the legislative cycle or the world that we're going to. Boulder City, Mr. Hardy and Ms. Shipp and Mayor Hardy have been more than gracious to allow us to perhaps interlope on the only bill that opens the redevelopment statutes. Ironically, it was Senator Joe Hardy, current mayor of Henderson, that passed one of the most important bills that, of Mayor of Boulder City, pardon me, thank you, Nicole, that passed the bill because at that time this site was in his district. That is a long explanation for a very small change, and I can't express, excuse me, my gratitude enough to you, Madam Chair, as well as the fine people of Boulder City and Henderson. Happy to answer questions. Also here is Leo Drozdoff, who provides some expertise on the technical aspects of the project, if in fact there are any questions on what's happening environmentally out there.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I do have a question, and I do apologize to the committee members that we weren't able to get that document to you all sooner, and I will make sure that you all have the time necessary, and I will ask of Mr. Goldwater and the City of Henderson to please meet with each committee member after they've had time to look at their document, just in case there are additional questions that they might have. But I did want to see, because the language I saw extends that from the 15 years to 18 years, and I understand the intent of that, especially coming back from COVID, right? But I do think it might be necessary to put some type of check-in with the Interim Government Affairs Committee as well, like requiring that like an update of that progress has been made to the interim GA and maybe to the Government Affairs Committee, like during that, like a check-in with that committee each year, just so that we're receiving the information, making sure that it doesn't need another extension in 5 years or 10 years, whatever that might look like. Would that be accepted?
Thank you, ma'am. David Goldwater, yes, that would be, of course, fine.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? It doesn't appear there are any. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to say on behalf of the City of Henderson, this is Nicole Rourke, Director of Government Affairs, that we appreciate you considering this amendment. This is a project that's very important to our community. We really want to see this move forward, and all these efforts of the last many years continue to be made so that this site gets cleaned up and adds benefits to our community. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support of SB 23 here in Carson City. I don't believe I see any. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of SB 23? I don't believe, although we do have a packed room in Las Vegas today, I do not believe that they are here to testify in support of SB 23. VPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 23?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 23, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide support testimony at this time.
At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in opposition to SB 23. I do not see any here in Carson City. BPS, is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to SB 23? I don't see any. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 23?
Callers, if you would like to testify in opposition to SB 23, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide opposition testimony at this time.
All right. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in neutral. I don't see anyone here in Carson City. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas approaching. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing? 2-3.
Callers, if you would like to testify in neutral for SB 23, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide neutral testimony at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite the sponsors for any closing remarks. It looks like we are good. Thank you. At this time, we will go ahead and close the hearing on SB 23. And now we will move on. And we will go ahead and open the hearing on SB 92, which revises provisions related to sidewalk vendors.
Thank you, Chair Torres, and good morning to the members of the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, my name is Fabian Doñate, and I represent Senate District 10 in the heart of Las Vegas. I come before you today to speak on Senate Bill 92, which would legitimize street food vendors. Today, I am joined by Robert Purdy, who is a fellow with the Nevada Latino Legislative Caucus, and Tony Ramirez from Make the Road, Nevada. And before I begin my remarks, I believe it is important to share my personal story as to why we arrived at this bill today. During the last primary election, I had the chance to be joined by my mother as we embarked on our door knocking. That's many of us go in our communities, knock on doors when we try to get elected for the first time, and I was no different. I had my family join me multiple times. But on one of the first occasions when my mom was able to join me, she shared with me that she had a pre-existing phobia of knocking on doors. And when we came to find out, the reasoning behind this phobia was because at an earlier age, my grandmother and my mom would go door to door to sell tamales to make ends meet. It's stories like this and so many others in our community that showcase the spirit of entrepreneurship and the ethic of our hardworking immigrants. When we aren't afforded the luxury of getting a job, we roll up our sleeves and we find new means of generating an income to support our families. That's the story of the American dream, and it's part of the reason why we're here today to showcase with you some of the problems that have persisted with this particular population. We have a few remarks prepared to help you understand the issue, so we'll go ahead and proceed with a presentation. Today, we want to speak with you about the lessons that we have learned from the current state of affairs with respect to street food vending and our strategy to legitimize street food vendors by providing a framework for their opportunity to operate in compliance as a small business unit and, of course, as something dealing with our workforce. Robert and I will go ahead and spend some time talking about the background of this issue, the limitations of our current regulations, and how we have adopted an amendment that will fix the issues that we see moving forward. At this point, I will go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Purdy, who will share with you some of the issues that we're seeing nationwide and how they're playing out here in Nevada.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, Chair Torres and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Robert Purdy, and I'm a fellow for the Nevada Latino Legislative Caucus. SB 92 is an act that relates to street food vending, and otherwise known as sidewalk vending, as referred to in this bill. It requires sidewalk vendors to obtain a vendor license and requires the local Board of Health to adopt certain regulations. Additionally, SB 92 requires the establishment of a task force on sidewalk vending. Street vendors in Nevada have increased in numbers across the state. Vendors are substantially made up of people of Latino and immigrant backgrounds. Every county and city has different regulations and definitions for vendors. And as I was doing my research for this bill, I even found myself getting confused with the different health codes throughout all of it. Existing law grants a governing body of a county or city all powers necessary and proper to address matters of local concern, including sidewalk vending. Existing law also authorizes a local Board of Health to adopt regulations relating to food establishments, also including sidewalk vending. It's easy to assume the reasons behind sidewalk vendors lacking registration. But by having the county or city govern sidewalk vending in its totality, we must learn that street vendors have not been given the proper support to comply with food and licensing regulations. For example, as every county and city has different regulations and definitions for vendors, it makes it very difficult for vendors to comply with food and licensing regulations as is. Therefore, to help legitimize street vendors, we need to start recognizing that safe sidewalk vending is first and foremost an economic issue. Several other states are taking the lead in regulating sidewalk vendors and allowing them to legally operate in growing metropolitan areas. California sidewalk vendors cannot legally obtain permits to operate. So in response, the state passed SB 972 to decriminalize the act of operating a mobile food cart without a license and to create more streamlined approaches to help sidewalk vendors obtain business license and health permits. The New York City Council, with its very famous street food culture, created a street food vendor advisory board in 2021 with members from health regulatory agencies, law enforcement, and business interest groups. This advisory board provides recommendation and advice on laws and regulations pertaining to sidewalk vendors. Arizona, Utah, and Florida have all passed similar legislation that seek to reform regulations for food vendors as well. As Nevada becomes a more popular destination with more major sports teams coming and a growing economy, it's important to maintain public safety near our gaming properties while also allowing vendors a reasonable and legal way to operate in our residential areas. The purpose of this bill is to provide vendors easier access to licensure acquisition and reforming bureaucratic barriers, allow access to proper permitting requirements, and to create the task force on safe sidewalk vending in the Office of the Secretary of State. And this is to review and reform existing laws and regulations, address the needs of sidewalk vendors and mobile units, collaborate with local jurisdictions, businesses, and law enforcement agencies to ensure the safety of vendors and preserve the public health of our community. Reforming regulations for vendors are necessary, and they are a net positive for all members of the community and support the spirit of entrepreneurship, which is one of the things that makes Nevada the greatest state in the union. If you ask the stakeholders about legitimizing sidewalk vendors, there is a general consensus that regulations for sidewalk vendors are necessary as they benefit all stakeholders in this equation. Consumers will have the assurance that the health, labor, and safety standards are followed, whereas state institutions will be able to regulate vendors with the new set of laws and regulations so that sidewalk vendors will have the opportunity to operate in compliance as a small business in the workforce and just do what all of us wanted to do, which is to achieve the American dream.
Thank you so much, Robert. Fabian Doñate for the record. At this time, we will go ahead and have Mr. Purdy step aside because I do want to invite the representatives from the agencies to come up and present the amendment if it's okay.
Yes, and if we could, yes, please present the amendment, especially because I know my members probably have just received it as well. Please do that. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Torres, Vice Chair Duran, members of the committee, Joanna Jacob on behalf of Clark County. And you should have a copy of a conceptual amendment in Nellis, and I will be working from that document. And we are jointly proposing this amendment with Washoe County Health District and with the Southern Nevada Health District. But first, I thought it would make sense, we'll present the county portions of the amendment. So it's actually it starts on page 2 of the document on Nellis. And just a little bit of context of why we're proposing this amendment today. We have been working with Senator Donate and Mr. Ramirez and with the health districts in the Senate on this and trying to figure out how we could accomplish Senator Donate's goal and also find a way for us to regulate in Clark County and in the cities. And so the amendment before you really is trying to fix a few things that we had talked about in the Senate that didn't quite make it into the draft of the reprint when it was happening. So I will talk to you about, and Just briefly about the bill, the first sections of the bill are related to the county, but then they're repeated, the provisions are repeated for the cities. So as you look through the bill, we will talk about Section 7.5 of the bill is one that we added, where Mr. Purdy had talked about a lot of the events that are coming to Clark County. And this is an issue that is one that we worked on with the Resort Association. Section 7.5 is actually going to address sidewalk vending, in our strip area and adjacent to the historical marker. It says that's intended to cover the Las Vegas sign and our stadium district. This is something that we are working on with Metro and with our division, especially as the events come forward. We want to make sure that really that there's a prohibition, I guess, on street food vending. That is something that was requested because that is very consistent with our policy in the county that there is no there are no businesses permitted on the strip area. And so what the intent that Senator Donati had was to regulate street food vending like other businesses. And so that was very consistent with the intent. We are putting a section in here, a very direct prohibition on the sale of merchandise in that area because of the large-scale sporting events that are coming into town. And that was a request from the Resort Association. There's a second bullet that we have from the county is to make this section effective on October 15th. And that is really to get an ordinance in place that the county will pass to regulate this issue in that area in time for some of the large-scale events that are coming to our community. We have removed in Section 9. Section 9 is where we are presenting the framework for the ordinance that we will also then pass to regulate sidewalk vending in the residential areas. And we are removing a section about referencing other businesses because we had tried to work on some language about how we were going to set some standards in the ordinance. And really that work is also contemplated, as Senator Donati, I'm sure, will explain, by the task force. So we're really trying to work towards a goal of consistent regulation on behalf of all of the county and the local governments. We have changed the effective dates. This is something that we had requested, Clark County had requested, to give us some time to do some meaningful outreach in our community. This is based on experience when we are doing a policy change of this kind, and especially our experience with the short-term rental bill last session. It did take us quite a lot of time to get out to our community, and we had all of our Clark County commissioners did town halls. We did a significant amount of outreach about this new model of business, and we contemplate that as well as we go out into our community to talk about what this will look like in Clark County. And we've committed to work with Senator Donati and with Mr. Ramirez and make the road on that outreach so that we can go out and talk to our residents about what they would like to see in their communities. So we have asked for that section to be able to pass our ordinance by July 1st of next year. If we can get it done before then, we will. But we know that we had a July 1st deadline for the short-term rental ordinance, and that was actually gave us the time to do that outreach. The other section, and I will note that when I talk about, that was Section 9 for the county, and Section 20 is for the cities, so that they will have the same deadline. And then the next section I have is Section 10. This is something we had talked about with Senator Donati about when we were working on the ordinance, is that as we enforce, we will enforce consistent with our county policies. And so we had to do a cleanup here that it's not the Board of County Commissioners, but to allow its designee. This is so that we can do our administrative process of enforcement of business license rules and regulations. That goes before a hearing officer, and it's an administrative matter instead of having to go to the public meeting. And then one last thing, I'm sorry, Section 14, we are clarifying recommendations of the task force. Mr. Purdy spoke about the task force that's going to be convened, and that we're making a change here, and it's incorrect in the amendment, Chair Torres, so I would like to say for the record, when I talk about Section 14, amending Section 14B5 to clarify that any recommendations from the task force regarding civil penalties for sidewalk vendors that operate in, I have written here prohibited areas. It should read non-prohibited areas, because the intent of that is so that the task force will talk about penalties, civil penalties in the residential areas, and that was something that was very important to Senator Donate. And then finally, I have one other change of effective dates. We really tried to work on this in the Senate, and we needed to clean this up. Section 29, there's a piece in the bill that talks about upon passage and approval, any policy or rule of the county is null and void. That conflicts with this, and this is really to avoid any issue that we may have while we are trying to get the ordinance passed by October 15th, that there's anything status quo right now until we can get the policy in place is going to be status quo. And that's the intent of our amendment, and I'll pass it over to the Health District, really, because we worked with them. The Health District standards will be incorporated into our ordinance that will pass, so I'll hand it over to Ms. Gutman.
Good morning, Chair Torres and committee. For the record, my name is Joelle Gutman Dodson. Here today, I represent the Washoe County Health District, and I'll just go quickly over these amendments. So if you look at Amendment 1, 2, and 3 from Washoe County Health District, these are definitions that were laid out in the bill, and we're striking 2 of them, and then we're revamping one of them. So we're striking the definition roaming sidewalk vendor, and we're striking the definition stationary sidewalk vendor, and then we're striking the word roaming and adding non-stationary sidewalk vendor, so that those regulations, so that these definitions currently can meet our current regulations for Southern Nevada Health District as well as Washoe County, until we revamp our regulations that's dictated later in the bill. So that's 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6 have to do with the task force. 4 and 5 just stipulate that the members of the task force in the membership from the health district as well as the law enforcement agency need to come from a county with a population of 100,000 or more, because this bill impacts counties with populations of 100,000 or more. So it'd be representatives from Washoe or Clark. That's 4 and 5. 6, it was a administrative. We just missed that the task force may apply for grants and accept gifts or donations if there's possibly programs later on that we recommend that require money. Section 7 and Section 7, excuse me. What is Section 7? Oh, I just added regulations here just for clarity. We're going to, the task force will have recommendations for legislation and regulations. And then sections 8, 9, and 10 are the same definitions that were written throughout the bill. We're just doing the same as we did in 1, 2, and 3. And then 11 and 12 are fixing so the task force is going to make recommendations for us to adopt new regulations, and we wanted to hear the recommendations before we made the new regulations. So the task force's recommendations are due September 1, 2024. 2024? Yeah. Yes. And so we wanted to be able to hear the recommendations and then create our new regulations that will be due on or before December 31st, 2025. So it does extend the deadline out a little, but we think that's better policy for everyone.
Thank you. Bradley Mayer, for the record, from Argenta Partners representing Southern Nevada Health District. And so just to wrap up Joelle's comments, I think a few of really the intent of this was that because part of this bill will go into effect by October 15th with the creation of Clark County's ordinance, it takes our health districts generally 8-9 months to actually go through an entire regulation creation process. And so that wouldn't be enough time to allow that to be into effect. And so that's really the purpose of these definition changes, is so that it can be come under our existing regulation structure now until we get time to hear the task force recommendations, and then have the 8-9 months, really gives us a year from the first task force recommendations to create a new set of regulations that can do this. And so we just wanted to put on the record that that is the intent of this and the reason for doing so.
Thank you so much. At this time, that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Thank you, and I know that there are a number of questions from this committee, and I am going to request from the bill sponsor and those that helped work on an amendment, because we did get the amendment pretty late yesterday, and just the way it's drafted, I'm going to request that we get a mock-up amendment before this bill is work session, because it is very, very hard for us to read, and there are so many changes, and I think that we need that before we can even really take a look at that. So I'm going to request that sooner rather than later, so that we have time, because we do have deadlines coming up. So please work with legal counsel so that we can get that completed in a timely manner. At this time, we'll go ahead and take questions. Members, any additional questions? All right, I'll go ahead and begin with Assemblyman De Silva, then Assemblyman Hibbets.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Senator, for your leadership on this issue. I mean, it is very impressive to see that you brought so many different interests to the table to hammer out something that's workable, in my opinion here. My question is pertaining to Section 14 and the actual the task force. So has there been any? It may actually be in some of the information that we've received over the last day or so. But what will that task force comprise of? Are there any sort of specific backgrounds or entities or organizations or what's that task force looking like in terms of its composition? Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much for that question. Fabian Doñate for the record. So the amendment doesn't change the composition. It just clarifies what's comprised of the folks that are on that task force. So I know in general, in this building, I know we've had heartburn over task forces and studies, et cetera, but I think this is probably one that I would argue probably makes sense. And the reason for that is, if you think about the issue in of itself, right? You have a street food vendor that could one day be at Valley High School, which is an encounter that I had. And then the next day, perhaps they're on a different side of town. And sometimes they're in the city of Las Vegas, other times they're in unincorporated Clark County, and in other points, perhaps they're in other parts of town. In northern Nevada, you could go from Reno to the city of Sparks, to parts of Washoe County, to Carson City. And so there's a lot of cross jurisdictions that come into play. And what we see is confusion with definitions as to what do you qualify as. There are differences of how one community feels versus the other. And oftentimes that creates regulations that are conflicting. And what I see in this proposal is, at some point, we have to create statewide initiatives for small businesses as to what a business license would look like, or what the regulations would be for instance, the health districts. That's the point of this task force, which is to streamline and reel back in what the cities have done in this space, because we recognize that, unfortunately, in some circumstances, it is a little bit disorganized because of how conflicting and how challenging this issue can be. The task force is comprised of folks that will be representatives of people that we worked with this bill. So gaming will be represented, law enforcement, county officials, the health district, folks from the Secretary of State's office, which is important because as you will hear later in the testimony in support of this bill, they have the ability to really look at business licenses in its entirety. And then also making sure that people who are street food vendors are represented on the task force as well. My ultimate goal is, by the time we come back in 2025, that the task force will have submitted another framework. This is the first step, but hopefully by then they submit a framework as to the laws that we should adopt, so that everyone is on the same page and no one is being left behind. at the bottom line, I believe that street food vendors deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and that's our ultimate goal with the productions of what will happen after this bill is passed. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And just bringing up Valley High School, I have to say go Vikings as a alum. I'm wearing Viking red today too, so that makes sense. All right, at this time, I'll go to Assemblyman Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair. My question is reference part of the amendment submitted by Clark County, so I don't know if Ms. Jacob wants to address this or Senator. And it's a technical question, so please forgive my ignorance because I'm new here. The effective dates for 7.5 and Section 29 say October 15th. Every bill that I've seen come out of here with a specific date has always been July 1st, October 1st, or January 1st. Is the 15th a specific date, or is there just random?
Thank you so much, Assemblyman, for that question. Fabian Donate for the record. There's a reason why we chose that date. It's a month before F1 comes to Las Vegas.
That explains it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Thomas. Yes, I'll go.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Senator, for the presentation. It kind of means a lot to me because in my district, I see a lot of vendors now. My question actually goes a little bit deeper, and it has to do with safety, health safety regulations. And I see now that on numerous occasions, people selling from the back of their cars. Will this task force eliminate some of that so that citizens will feel, good about, their health, and buying a product? And that's not denying those people that want a business license. So it's kind of like I have kind of two questions in there. The cost of the business license and them being able to sell, I don't know, from the back of their cars. I don't know if that will be something that the task force would look at, but I think it's something that we should look at.
Thank you so much for that question, Assemblywoman Fabian Donate, for the record. I'm glad that you asked that question because that's kind of the question that I had. So I want to touch point, and I apologize to my health district folks, but I think it's important to narrate the story as to why this bill came to fruition. So a couple of months ago, I had the chance to tour with the Southern Nevada Health District on what goes on with street food vendors. And the occurrence that I experienced wasn't the best. And I think it's not reflective on the health district workers. I think it's just on how our policies are written and what folks have to follow. What I encountered was the street food vendor so we went to a hotspot area in Las Vegas. Conveniently, the hotspot areas were down the street from my house. And what we encountered was the first street food vendor was selling ice cream out of containers of, it's the Gatorade chests, right? And when we were talking to him, I was the one that was translating on behalf of the public health workers. And, I was asking him, how long have you been doing this? He mentioned that he's been doing it for quite a bit, and it's his only source of income. And then as we were trying to give him the explanation as to, here are the health district regulations and why we're giving you, this pamphlet. And then at the same time, they were starting to impound the chests that he had with ice cream. And, as we were doing that, people were flipping us off down the street, right? Yelling remarks that probably were pretty insensitive. And we had to rush out of that space because the safety of the workers were being jeopardized. And then we went around the street, right? We went around the other side of Valley High School. And then this is probably the one that was more heartbreaking, was a similar encounter. This is a different type of street food vendor, probably the ones that you see in your neighborhood where they're selling chips, right? Ice cream, corn, etc. And In this encounter, it was a little bit more saddening because as we were doing the same circumstance where we were taking the street food from them, the non-perishable items, the perishable items, so the things that were heated, right? The bagged chips could stay, but it was everything else that we had to take. And he looked at me and he pretty much said, you know, if you are a state senator, then why can't you help me? Why are you letting them do this to me? I promise I won't do it again. It's my only means of living. And it made me question, okay, perhaps this is not the best way that we can encounter human beings. Especially when they've, you know, if they are entrepreneurs and they have to start somewhere, right? Perhaps they don't have the luxury of buying or starting a restaurant, a brick and mortar. There has to be some way that we can meet people where they're at. And I think to your question of public health risk, this is perhaps where I disagree with some of the public health folks with my own public health background. Public health risk is interesting when it comes to food. I believe there's a stratification of public health risk. The guy who is selling fruit on the corner of the street is a low risk. The woman who is now selling tamales, right? Now you're dealing with different items, perhaps the warmth of the temperature of what the food should be handled at. That's a different type of risk. And then you have the higher risk, which is the taco stands that are standing up in random parts of town that can serve multiple people at a time. There's a reason why we have restaurants operate in certain regulations, because they can operate and distribute food to a lot of people within the hour versus the guy who's just selling 5 containers of cut up fruit. I think in general, what we want to see in this bill is we need to separate how we approach different circumstances, and we should help those folks throughout all the tiers reach the permitting and the licensing that is available already in statute. But in a similar sense, I think we're going to have the tough conversation in the interim, which is these permits are difficult to achieve. And at some point, we have to make some changes, and that's pretty much where the task force starts to come in.
And Senator Lanyate, thank you so much for your response. And I know that in the Senate, you all love to talk, but we but we do need our answers to get just a little bit more concise as well, because I know that many of us would like to make it out to Law Enforcement Memorial, or maybe go home tonight, or make it to the Cuatro de Mayo party. So we just got to make sure that I get all the questions in, because I know I do have a number of them. Assemblyman Thomas, does that help answer your question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do appreciate that. And I do appreciate that explanation, because sometimes the history does count, you know, for us to understand what's going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assemblyman Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and good morning. Thank you, Senator, so much for your presentation. You know, this is also a personal issue, you know, when my husband first came to this country, before he found work, he was also a street food vendor in the beautiful state of Utah. Not as beautiful as Nevada, though. So my question is in Section 7 and 7.5, you list out that the Board of County Commissioners may adopt criminal penalties. I have a few concerns about that. What does that look like? Why are we not putting criminal penalties in there ourselves? And in other states, do they impose criminal penalties, and what does that look like? Thank you. Section 10 as well.
Thank you so much, Fabian Donata, for the record. I think the county officials and law enforcement could answer that if they would like to, but really quickly, what I didn't want is to, so currently it already has criminal penalties for when you don't operate without a business license, et cetera. That will remain the same on the Strip. The only difference now is we're actually adding a boundary as to how far you have to be from those properties. So the status quo will remain. Our argument is you should not criminalize folks in the residential areas. And that's why you see the transition to civil penalties. So that's the difference.
Thank you so much for that. And my other question is, in that same section, could HOAs impose any policies against this piece of legislation?
Joanna Jacob, for the record. I was just conferring with Senator Donate because that is Joanna Jacob, for the record, in response to you, Chair Torres and Assemblyman. This is a conundrum for us in the local governments, largely on the ordinances. They're usually, though we can pass ordinances, HOAs can adopt bylaws, and I'll defer to legal on this too, is what Senator Donati suggested, because bylaws and policies of the HOA are permitted to regulate conduct in the HOAs. So largely in the where we do our ordinances, though, I will tell you, in unincorporated Clark County's ordinance will cover those areas, unincorporated Clark County. We do have areas that are not in HOAs, and this is where our ordinance would come in and regulate there. So that's really, and I guess I'll defer to legal. Maybe we could have legal weigh in on that issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question, Assemblywoman, and we're happy to get legal to get us a response. Our chief counsel is just not in the building today, but I know that he will work on getting us a response for that. I kind of want to follow up to that question, because I do have some concerns with the language in section 7.5, and I know it's for the cities and the counties, so it's in two different parts of the bill regarding like the resorts and entertainment industry, because I think that there should be a requirement that the vendor is given a warning first before they are receiving any penalty. And I think that should be added in there, because I think, I might not know where 1,500 feet of a property is. Like I will tell you right now, I would not know if I was a vendor. And I think that you should have to tell them, like, hey, this is within that line. Additionally, I would like to see the language regarding criminal penalties removed, because I do not believe that it is the intent of this bill for us to criminalize street food vending.
Thank you for the question, Chair Torres. Director Beth Schmidt, representing Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. The goal for the Metropolitan Police Department in the tourist corridor is not to go straight to the arrest. That is not the goal. It's not what we're doing currently. What we do, and the misdemeanor charge is doing business without a license. And so what we do is we have a bilingual sheet of paper that explains what the charge is, and that you can't do, it just explains what the charge is. It's in English and it's in Spanish. So what our officers do is they will, when we see 50 to 70 of these vendors, and these are different vendors. These are vendors that are coming in. It's extremely organized in the tourist corridor. This is not one-offs. These are extremely organized. And what we will do is we'll try to find the main person that is in charge of them. They typically come in from California, and we will address that. We will give them the warning and give it to them on paper and explain the situation. So it is warn, warn, warn. The goal is not to arrest immediately.
Thank you. And I guess my question or my comment and what I would like to see added into this bill is language that actually enforces that, because what you're telling me on the record is different than what is actually in this bill. And I think that there has to be that intent, that effort. And I think that it seems that that's what the local police departments are probably already doing. But I would like it to be very clear, because in the interest of protecting our communities, it's important to me that warning is given and that warning is enumerated in their rights.
Thank you, Chair Torres. So just to clarify that we would always have to warn, am I understanding that there would be no circumstance where we could immediately arrest the person or immediately cite them?
Yes.
The concern with that is that our experience...
And if you could please state your name for the record.
Yes, sorry. Beth Schmidt, representing Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. The concern with that is that we have seen a tremendous amount of violence, not only between vendors, and this is the exception. This is in the tourist corridor areas. We have seen violence among the vendors in the group, but also violence toward officers. And that's where we have a conundrum with saying that we would have to warn someone who has a weapon and has threatened someone.
And we're not going to continue to elaborate on that. You know, I mean, there are protections that protect police officers from violence, right? And violence is a different issue, and assault, obviously, or threats to an officer is already a crime, right? And so that this does not change that. So I don't think it would hurt. And you know, even in my classroom, I warn a student before their cell phone, before I call their parent. You know, I think that a friendly warning would be appropriate. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Assemblyman DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and keep it short. First off, I'd just like to say, as a businessman, I applaud anyone that wants to try and start a business. I think that's a very admirable goal in this country. My question is kind of following up on Assemblywoman Thomas's point about health standards, because we're basically looking at regulating another food delivery type of business. And the question is really towards the health districts. Are you anticipating a whole new type of oversight and inspection process as it relates to vendors?
Thank you for the question. Joelle Gutman Dodson for the record. We already regulate mobile food carts. That's the definition Washoe County Health District uses. And although it is like a different amount of people that food carts can potentially serve, the food risk is the same. So we still have the same sort of standards where food has to be prepared in an approved commissary, and they have to be on an approved food cart. So there is a permitting and licensing process from health. So we can't and that's where this bill started is, you know, we wanted to maybe lower the barrier of permitting from the health perspective, and we couldn't do that. We do believe we can find ways to get people licensed better, and we have ideas on how to get these entrepreneurs better carts and opportunities for approved commissaries. But we plan on hashing that out in the task force. But we currently do have standards set, and Southern Nevada does too. They're just different. Same standards, but different definitions. Excuse me.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I see Assemblyman Carter, and then I believe Assemblyman Taylor as well. Assemblyman Carter.
Thank you very much. You know, mine ties into what Officer Schmidt was just talking about, the organized factor. You know, being from Southern Nevada, we've watched probably our whole lives dealing with arguably human trafficking in the resort corridor with the card snappers and the escort services. And while we don't have too much of that out on the east side where I'm at, we do have the organized fruit vendors that come in, typically out-of-state license plates on their vehicles, van full of typically immigrants, dropping them off on a corner, dropping off a food cart, and then leaving them out there all day long in the summer until they come back around at the end of the day. And I've even seen them where they forgot people and left them on the corners. What are we going to try to do to control this exploitation of marginalized communities? You know, we all love the elote lady on the east side. We all love the chip vendors outside. But the fruit stands, and we all love the fruit stand fruit. It's just, I'm concerned about the exploitation of these marginalized communities. Out-of-state marginalized communities to boot.
Assemblyman Carter, Tony Ramirez for the record, excuse me. So my organization represents a lot of the members who are in residential areas. They're the ones who would be impacted by this bill. And I do agree human trafficking is an issue here, and food vendors are no exception to that. We feel that this bill is going to reduce that. The folks that we're trying to protect are our membership in the residential areas. I think primarily a lot of those folks are on the, those sophisticated operations are primarily in the Strip, as Sergeant Beth had mentioned, and those are the folks that we are trying to make sure are not taken away from our local folks. We feel this bill will protect our local vendors in the residential areas.
Assemblyman Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, and for and each of you, your presenters, for being here. I think this is great to put some parameters around this growing industry, right, for many people as the gig economy continues to grow. My concern just goes back to making sure that we can follow all of the recommended changes. There's some date conflicts in some of those, and maybe some other areas. I couldn't get all of it in because we haven't had it that long, but if that can be remedied somehow before it comes to us or in some fashion for work sessions, so we just have real clear information on here's the final recommendation for what you're looking for, that would be helpful. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I don't believe there are any additional questions. Thank you. At this time, I'll invite, it looks like we have a pretty large audience in Las Vegas. And I would just ask anybody that is wishing to testify on this bill, please make sure that you have signed in. We're just trying to keep track of how many people that I have. So it looks like we have a number of folk wishing to testify in support. So I'm going to go ahead and invite everyone and wishing to testify in support. We're going to go ahead and begin here in Carson City. Then I'll go to Las Vegas. Then we'll come back to Carson City. Then we'll go back to Las Vegas. So we will go back and forth just a little bit. I am going to try to allow time for everyone to testify on this piece of legislation. Everyone will be limited to 2 minutes. I will set the timer for each speaker, and then once the 2 minutes is up, I'll ask you to wrap up. We'll go ahead and begin here in Carson City. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Nick Vasiliadis here for the record on behalf of the Nevada Resort Association. I'd like to lead off by thanking the sponsor of the bill for working through all of the various issues, concerns, questions that the resorts had. We appreciate the fact that there is a delineation between, our major economic hub and then also the communities. We do think that there can be a balance that is struck between properly regulating the communities, but also making sure that we're protecting our largest economic interest in this state. We are very much in support of the amendment as presented. I'd also like to provide some context that many of the things that were in that amendment as presented were things that were agreed upon through the negotiation process on the Senate side and in the rush to make sure that the bill did not meet a untimely deadline death. The bill was moved with the understanding that we would continue to work on these issues. So I also want to thank the chair of this committee for calling out the need for a clean mock-up. We recognize that there are a lot of changes, but we also do believe as an association that everything from the sponsor to the Resort Association to Metro to the Health District to the counties was something that was negotiated in good faith. And so we want to stand by that good faith negotiation. And so that's why I wanted to just make crystal clear that we are in support of the amendment as presented. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Chair Torres and Vice Chair Duran, my name is Beth Schmidt. I represent the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and I want to second what Nick Vasiliadis has said. We want to thank Senator Donate for working with us on SB 92. We appreciate the effort to prioritize public safety in our tourist corridor in Las Vegas. And we acknowledge that this has been a very challenging proposition to bring everyone together and to accomplish what the needs of all. We do as well. We support the amendment as it was presented, and we stand in favor of SB 92.
Good morning, Chair Torres and members of the committee. My name is Paul Gatha, and I represent the Culinary Workers Union Local 226. I will say I'm happy to be on the same side as Mr. Vasiliadis. The Culinary Union supports Senate Bill 92 because the state should not be in the business of criminalizing entrepreneurialism. Many street food vendors, some of whom are family of culinary members, are immigrants who are trying to make a better life for themselves and their families, and Nevada should be supporting them in that goal. The Culinary Union urges the Nevada Legislature to support and pass SB 92. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like we were amiss by not taking a photo of that. At this time, I'm going to go ahead. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and go to Las Vegas. We will begin.
Good morning, Chairwoman Torres and members of the committee. My name is Maggie Salas Crespo, and I serve as the Deputy Secretary of State for Southern Nevada. On behalf of Secretary Francisco V. Aguilar, I would like to share our support to Senate Bill 92 and the creation of the Task Force on Sidewalk Vending within the Office of the Secretary of State and with the amendments as presented. The Secretary of State's office is the first stop for business registration, and we are committed to and take our responsibility to the business community seriously, especially for those coming from underserved populations. The Secretary of State understands the vital role that the small business and entrepreneurs play in Nevada's economy and believe that the state should be a resource for those seeking to start or legitimize their business. This includes finding ways to give access to resource and capital to our entrepreneurs as opposed to continuously punishing them for pursuing their business goals. Entrepreneurs have to start somewhere, and we believe this measure gives sidewalk vendors the opportunity to do so while allowing the task force to address other issues facing the industry and giving these workers a seat at the table. As prescribed by Senate Bill 92, the task force on sidewalk vending would bring interested parties to the table to review existing state and local law related to sidewalk vending and make recommendations to improve these laws within the focus of legitimizing and removing unnecessary barriers for sidewalk vending while protecting public health, safety, and welfare of Nevadans. This bill falls right in line with the Secretary's vision to improve processes for our business community to ensure their success in Nevada, and we welcome the decision to house this task force within our office. We know entrepreneurship leads to bigger business, but with little access to capital and other resources, then it's difficult for businesses to grow. If we want Nevada to be business friendly, it should be friendly to businesses of all kinds, no matter the size. We look forward to working with interested parties in this issue, and I like to say that in doing so with the task force, it's great that this work with everybody coming together for this bill will continue to the task force. Thank you.
Thank you. I know how much the Secretary of State's office loves a good task force. And thank you for speaking very quickly. I'll go to the next in Las Vegas. And I believe there's a translator as well, so we'll go ahead and have the remarks in Spanish, and then I'll allow for the translator to go after. Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Alicia Cruz y soy miembro de Se Hace Camino Nevada y también soy vendedora ambulante y estoy aquí para apoyar a la ley SB 92. Yo me dedico a mi negocio vendiendo comida, trabajando duro cada día para apoyar a mi familia. Necesitamos un camino de legalización para empresarios como yo para poder trabajar con dignidad. Ahorita no hay recursos ni camino para legalizar mi negocio y por eso les pido apoyen a esta ley para empresarios como yo podemos prosperar. Gracias por su tiempo.
Hello, my name is Robert Garcia for the record, and I'll be translating for Alicia. Good morning, my name is Alicia Mendez, and I am a member of Make the Road Nevada, and I'm also a street vendor, and I'm here to support SB 92. I dedicate myself to my business, selling food. I work hard to support my family. We need a path to legalization for other businesses like mine so we can work with dignity. Today, there are no resources or pathway to legalize my business, and that is why I ask that you support the law so other small business owners like me can prosper. Thank you for your time. Also, I would like to say my name is Robert Garcia for the record, and I support SB 92. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for helping out today. I'll take one more in Las Vegas.
Good morning, Madam Chair Torres and committee. My name is Jose Rivera. I am the environmental justice organizer with Make the Road Nevada. Over the past several months, we have been working as the outreach connection between the legislation and our Valley's street vendors advocating for the passing of SB 92. Through my work organizing with street vendors, I have learned about the injustices they face with their current system. It is clear that our system was not designed with these specific groups of people in mind. However, street vendor regulations can benefit all stakeholders, including consumers, small business owners, and increase job opportunities, regulate small businesses, and redirect investment to reinforce the law for other relevant issues. Street vending is an important aspect of our economy and is a form of art that reflects the diversity of the state of Nevada. Vendors like Horacio, Luis, Mari, and Baltasar are human beings who have made sacrifices to provide for their families and contribute to the economy. It's time to decriminalize street vending once and for all and allow our economy, families, vendors, and entrepreneurs to prosper. Let's work together to create a system that supports everyone, including our hardworking street vendors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. It is so good to see you. Jose was actually my former student, and I'm so proud of you. Thank you. We'll go back to Carson City before going back to Las Vegas. Go ahead here in Carson City.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Jennifer Willett, Willett, and I'm the grassroots manager at All Voting is Local Action. We ditto the comments made and that we know are coming, and we are proud to support this excellent bill. Thank you.
Hello, committee members. For the record, my name is Robert Purdy. Thank you for hearing my presentation. But right now, I'm going to be testifying as the president of the UNR Young Dems in support of SB 92. And I just, ditto to what everybody says. I just want to tell a story about how this affected me. There was a woman across the street from my apartment, and I go to school at UNR, and her name was Rosa. And I remember it was like a really annoyingly cold, windy November day, and I just, I'm a mechanical engineering student. I bombed an exam horribly, and my day was going not that great. And I remember walking back, and I started talking to this woman, and she didn't speak in English, but I speak some Spanish, so I was able to communicate with her. And she was teasing me about my Spanish and all this. And I bought an elote in a cup from her, and I just remember how much better that made me feel about my day, because it reminded me of how back home at the parties of my cousins and all these things, about how we would eat elotes together and how food can, as a community, can bind people and can really make it better. And this might be a little, slightly hippie-ish, but I really do believe that this is a good bill, and that we have to protect some of the members of our society that are the most victimized. And want to once again just say in my support for this bill. Thank you very much.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carla Sanchez, and I am a youth organizer with Make the Road Nevada. I'm here today to express my strong support for SB 92. Yesterday, I took about 3 hours to drive around Reno, Sparks, and Sun Valley to try and mobilize street food vendors to come here today and testify and just talk about their experience as a street vendor. I had a conversation that stuck with me with a woman. I bought an elote from her, and I was telling her about this bill, and she was really happy to hear it, and she was very interested, but unfortunately, she was very scared. She said to me, "What if I listen to you and I show up to Carson City and something bad happens to me?" Insinuating, what if I get arrested? What if I show up and they give me a fine? And unfortunately, this is the harsh reality of being a street vendor. Everybody should be able to advocate for themselves without fear. My community should not be criminalized for simply providing for their family. I urge you to support SB 92 to ensure that street vendors are protected and decriminalized. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alex Noriega, representing the Nevada AFL-CIO. On behalf of 150,000 members and 120 unions, we proudly support SB 92. Thank you.
Hello, members of the committee. My name is Marco Rauda with El Faro Consulting. SB 92 is very important to me, specifically because this is how my family has, made a living in the past, right? From my grandmother to my uncle's wives. Whenever there's a situation where they can't make their bills, they will, make tamales or pupusas. I'm Salvadoran. And that's how they will make money to pay rent for those weeks. They don't sell it out on the street, but yet, if they ever had to, this bill would help them tremendously. I encourage all of you guys, if you ever run into a street food vendor or get food from them, please have a conversation with them. They are real people. They are people that just want to help their families and their communities as well. And I urge you guys to please support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we had a couple questions from committee members about what an elote is. So it's a corn. Very popular, in case you're wondering. At this time, we'll go back to Las Vegas. We'll go ahead and take 4 in Las Vegas.
Hola, mi nombre es Marta Moreno, M-A-R-T-H-A-M-O-R-E-N-O. Soy miembro líder de Make the Road Nevada, haciendo camino en Nevada y de la comunidad. Apoyo la SB 92. Me gustaría que apoyáramos a los vendedores ambulantes porque ellos están trabajando por sus familias y apoyando la economía local. Además, es parte de nuestra cultura y hace felices a las familias cuando oímos ese sonido de las bocinas. Por favor, pasen la propuesta SB 92. Gracias.
Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Lalo Montoya, interpreting for Marta Moreno, Lalo Montoya. My name is Marta Moreno. I'm a member leader of Make the Road Nevada, here in support of SB 92. I would like us to support street vendors because they are working to provide for their families and support the local economy. And it is also a part of our culture. It makes families happy when they hear them come through. Please pass Bill SB 92. Thank you. And also for the record, I also ditto the comments and urge you to support SB 92.
Take two more in Las Vegas. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sarah Johnson, for the record, I am the director for the Lieutenant Governor's Office of Small Business Advocacy. Thank you for the opportunity to support SB 92. I urge you to support this bill, which would legalize street food vending and create an accessible pathway to entrepreneurship for many Nevadans. Following the pandemic, more and more individuals turn to entrepreneurship as a way to support their families and pursue the American dream. We should all be looking for ways to make it easier, not harder, for people to create economic opportunities for themselves and their families. And that's what is at the heart of this bill. From a personal note, my husband and I have been fortunate enough to travel to more than 60 countries. Some of our favorite experiences have been trying culturally significant and interesting foods from street vendors around the world. Many of America's great cities also have a vibrant street food vendor culture. We should encourage that here in Nevada as well. I urge you to support SB 92, and in doing so, support people's potential to contribute to their local community and make a better future for themselves. From the Lieutenant Governor's Office of Small Business Advocacy, we fully offer our support to help individuals become entrepreneurs and pursue their American dream.
Thank you. Next in Las Vegas. One more.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Lucy Gonzalez. For the record, LucyGonzalez. I've been a constituent of District 5 for the past 7 years. I'm here today to express my strong support for SB 92. I have come to realize how difficult it is for street vendors in Nevada to try to make ends meet to feed their families. Many street vendors are currently at risk because they cannot obtain a vendor license. These hard-working individuals have business mindset and they want progress for a better life, knowing they're going to work every day with no fear. I talk to people every day, it makes me feel like these people need the opportunity to, so they can have a business. And one day I saw this street vendor selling fruit in Henderson. You know how it makes me feel? Like, I'm from Mexico City, and seeing my people in my community selling the fruit and the elotes and the corn on the cob, it made me feel like, oh my God, it's amazing seeing all these people working so hard in the heat. It was really busy that I noticed that these people were supporting him and see him, that he was really busy and these people enjoying the fruit. A lot of people were buying fresh fruit in a hot weather. It was nice to see the community supporting him. After 1 month, I no longer saw him. So that makes me feel, oh my God, he was trying to make a living and all of a sudden he was gone. So what happened to him? Selling outside the gas station in Henderson near my house, and I hope that I was able to return. And I see more support for the street vendors in East Las Vegas, and I want to see that in Henderson as well. I see how they contribute to the community and admire their hard work. By passing SB 92, we can create a more just and exclusive state where all members of the community can contribute to our state, and urge you to support SB 92. Let's make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, please. And I don't believe there's anyone else here in Carson City wishing to testify in support of this bill, but if there is, please approach so that I can signify that. But otherwise, we'll just go ahead and stay in Las Vegas for now.
Good morning, committee. My name is Mauricio Garcia Lopez,
MAURICIOGARCIALOPEZ. I am a canvasser with Make the Road Nevada, and I'm here today in support of SB 92. As someone who has lived in Nevada since I was 2 years old, I have seen firsthand the unfair treatment towards street vendors. As the son of a former street vendor, my parents have faced some horrific experiences and humiliations, such as the police throwing away my parents' products that sustained our family. It was a means to survival and to support my family. These hardworking individuals are simply trying to survive and thrive as independent business owners. SB 92 would provide an opportunity to legitimize their business. I urge you to pass SB 92. Thank you.
Good morning to the committee. My name is Frankie Perez. That's FRANKIE PEREZ. I'm the LGBTQ justice organizer with Make the Road Nevada, and I strongly urge you to support SB 92, as I do strongly. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair.
Testimony. And just a reminder, we do have several more people that would like to testify. Please feel free to just say ditto, or that's what I agree with my colleagues, and just say that you support the bill. But go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jacob Egan, JACOB EGAN. I am a canvasser with Make the Road Nevada, and I'd like to ditto all the comments made by my colleagues. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rosalia Martinez, ROSALIA MARTINEZ, and I also did all the comments made. Thank you.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es Elizabeth Ortiz y estoy a favor de la SB 92. Gracias.
Hello, my name is Robert Garcia. For the record, I'll be translating for Elizabeth Ortiz. She says that she also supports SB 92. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Adriana Corona, ADRIANA CORONA. Soy miembro de Se Hace Camino, Nevada. Estoy aquí hoy en día para apoyar al proyecto de la ley SB 92. Un día estuve yo en el parque haciendo caminata en mi comunidad y me tocó ver cómo la policía tiraba toda la mercancía al suelo de un vendedor ambulante. Me entristeció mucho porque mis papás fueron vendedores ambulantes y me imaginé a mis padres en ese momento. Quiero pedirles que apoyen esta propuesta de ley. Gracias.
Gracias.
Good morning, I'm here to translate.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Adriana Corona. I'm a Make the Road Nevada member. I am here today in support of SB 92. One day I was walking at the park in my community and I witnessed the way police threw street vendors' merchandise onto the ground. I became incredibly sad because my parents were street vendors, and in that moment I pictured my parents. I want to ask for your support on SB 92. Thank you. And for the record, my name is Alejandra Muñetón Carrera, ALEJANDRA, MUNETONCARRERA, and I would like to ditto all the support. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Omar Nemoga, and I ditto.
Looks like we have a few more Las Vegas approaching. Go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Mi nombre es Luz María García y apoyo la SBD 92.
Hello, her name is Maria Garcia. Robert Garcia, for the record. Maria Garcia says that she supports SB 92.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Elizabeth Velázquez y apoyo SB 92.
Hello, her name is Elizabeth Velasquez, and she supports SB 92. Robert Garcia, for the record.
Hola, mi nombre es Manuel Cázares y apoyo la SB. Tiro.
Hello, Robert Garcia for the record. My name, SB 92, Manuel also supports, and he says ditto as well.
Hello, my name is Maria Navarrete, and I support SB 92. Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Luz María Salgado y apoyo a SB 92 porque sabemos que es un trabajo muy duro y muy esforzoso, que la verdad ellos han sufrido mucho y mis ojos una vez vieron que fui para Henderson y estaba puesto de lotes. Iba con mi familia y siempre les he dicho a mis hijos, miren, es un trabajo muy difícil porque desafortunadamente lo miran muy poco y muchas de las personas son gente indocumentada. Y miré cómo estaba el puesto, si la persona, tardé como 2 horas y volví a regresar y la persona no estaba ahí. No sé qué pasó, se lo llevaré a la policía, no lo sé. Pero es ver cómo la gente trabaja duramente y es un trabajo que no lo saben valorar. Yo apoyo yo apoyo esta ley SB 92. Gracias.
Hello again. My name is Robert Garcia. I'll be translating for Luz Salgado. What she just said right now is that she supports SB 92. There's a story that she would like to share about how one time in Henderson, she saw street vending, and she's been telling her kids and her family that they are hard workers and oftentimes they might be undocumented, but doesn't matter because they're making a living, they're surviving. And one time she saw the street vendor, and then 2 hours later when she returned to the same area, they were gone, and it was very sad for her because she grew concerned of like what happens if something happened to them, that like the police told them to leave. And that's why she believes that SB 92 should be supported, and she supports it wholeheartedly. Thank you so much. And Robert Garcia for the record again.
Thank you. Gracias por su testimonio. Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Karina Martinez. I'm a canvasser at Make the Road, Nevada. I strongly support SB 92. Every day I talk to these street vendors, and they're not criminals, and they're just trying to provide food for their family. And I strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia Salgado, CYNTHIA SALGADO. I'm with Make the Road Nevada, and I ditto all the comments made by not only our membership, but my colleagues in support for SB 92. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. My name is Marian Wolford, and I am a canvasser with Make the Road Nevada, and I support SB 92. Ditto.
Hello, good morning. My name is Marisela Hernandez, MARICELA, and I'm here to support SB 92 and ditto to all the comments.
Good morning. My name is Audrey Peral, for the record, PERAL. I'm the Director of Organizing for Make the Road Nevada. And I'm here today to show my strong support for SB 92. As an organization, we have been out in the community talking to folks about this for the last year or so. I personally have been out in the long heat. For those of us that are down in Vegas, we know that it's over 100-degree weather, but these folks work hard every single day. Through our conversations, we have learned that their number one ask and need is to find some form of legitimizing their business. These are hardworking folks that are really just trying to make ends meet and contribute to our society. And so I'm here to ditto all the comments that were made today and ask for your support for SB 92. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rihanna Meadows, RAEANNA-MEADOWS. I'm a core canvasser with Make the Road Nevada, and I'm here in support of SB 92, and I did everything that was said today, and thank you so much.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Jarrett Yost, JARRETTYOST. I'm in strong support, urge you for your strong support of SB 92. I've had hundreds of conversations with people in the community in support of SB 92. And I ditto all the comments in support. Thank you.
At this time, is there anyone else in Las Vegas? I don't believe I see any. BPS, is there anyone online wishing to testify in support of SB 92?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 92, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. One moment, Chair.
Hello, committee. My name is Gil Lopez. I'm a resident of the beautiful North Las Vegas here in support of SB 92. And we want to thank the sponsor for bringing this bill forward, and we urge your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez, for your testimony. Next caller, please.
Good morning, good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Taylor Patterson. That's TaylorPatterson. I'm the Executive Director of Native Voters Alliance Nevada. We are the largest Native American community organization in the state. I urge your support of SB 92. The legislature always boasts the diversity that we have here in Nevada. It's time to protect that diversity and make sure that all of our community members feel safe while they're trying to grow their small businesses. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Government Affairs Committee. My name is Deanna Huatran. That's DeannaHuatran, and I'm a coalition coordinator for the Nevada Immigrant Coalition here on behalf of the coalition. The Nevada Immigrant Coalition consists of diverse organizations from across the state to work together to fight for immigration reform and immigrant justice, and we are here in support of SB 92. I want to thank Senator Doñate for sponsoring this bill. My parents are both from Vietnam, and my mom has fond memories of getting her favorite meals from her local street vendors. And street vending is a multicultural practice, and SB 92 promotes not only safe entrepreneurship, but increases cultural awareness and allows for many of our diverse immigrant communities to share their cultural dishes and traditions with their community. We urge for your support for SB 92, and thank you so much.
One moment, Chair. Caller with the last 3 digits 524. You're unmuted on our end. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Cody Hoskins. That's CODYHOSKINS, Political Director for SEIU Local 1107. SEIU represents over 5,600 Clark County and Southern Nevada Health District workers. SEIU believes that SB 92 will help in the process of legitimizing the work of street vendors in Clark and Washoe counties, while also creating a process to ensure the safety of our communities. SEIU urges your support for SB 92. Thank you.
Good morning, Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years, also in support of SB 92. I would like to thank the sponsor, Senator Doñate, also Make the Road for their work on this. NFCA represents some of the lowest paid workers working in schools. Many of these employees have to work other jobs. Some are street vendors. We appreciate the work on this bill and are in support. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and Committee members. My name is Amy Koo, AMYKOO, and I'm the Acting Deputy Director with One API Nevada. We're a local nonprofit that advocates for the growing Asian American community here in Nevada, calling in support of SB 92. Thank you.
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 92, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. One moment, Chair. Caller with the last 3 digits 247. Please press star 6 to unmute your microphone. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Erika Castro, and I'm the organizing director with the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, here in support of Senate Bill 92. I grew up on the east side of Las Vegas, which is predominantly Latina, so I was often buying elotes from the elotero man as a kid. I remember often asking my parents for money and then running outside of the with the family because everybody wanted some. Many of our immigrant families come from countries where street food vending is part of our culture. It's the norm. You walk down the street and someone is making a living selling their specialties so they can put food on their tables for their own families as well. Street food vendors are simply trying to make a living, and they are an important part of our community's culture and economic development. SB 92 creates the necessary pathways to invest in the entrepreneurship of street vendors while also ensuring the health and safety of consumers. SB 92 will ensure that local entities have the ability to work with the community on ways to support local small businesses and create a task force to allow us to continue this work outside of the session. As planned, we ask that you invest in small businesses and support SB 92. Thank you.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to provide support testimony at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in opposition to SB 92. I do not believe I see any here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to SB 92? I don't believe I see any. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 92?
Chair, the line is open and working, but there are no callers choosing to provide opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and move into the neutral position. If there's anyone in Las Vegas or Carson City wishing to testify in neutral, please approach now. I see someone here in Carson City, so please begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair, Torres, and committee members on government affairs. For the record, my name is George Ritz. Last name is spelled H-R-I-T-Z. I'm the government affairs representative with the department with the Nevada Taxpayers Association. Before getting started, I'd like to thank the bill presenters. I know there's a lot of work that went into this. I'm testifying in neutral for Senate Bill 92 and would like to direct you to a few statutes in Title 32, Chapter 372, which is administered by the Nevada Department of Taxation. First, I'd like to direct you to NRS 372.060.3C. A sale is defined: the furnishing, preparing, or serving for a consideration of food, meal, or drink. Second, NRS 372.284.2D. Food for human consumption does not include prepared food intended for immediate consumption. Third, NRS 372.055.1C. Retailer defined: every person making more than 2 retail sales of tangible personal property during a 12-month period. Fourth, NRS 372.070. A seller is defined: every person engaged in the business of selling tangible personal property of a kind, the gross receipts from the retail sales of which are required to be included in the measure of sales and use tax. What I've read to you brings up two questions. Are we treating businesses differently? That was my first question. My second one, is this revenue? Is this revenue that the state is missing out on? And last, through you, Chair Torres, to you, Assembly Koenig, happy birthday. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. I'm happy we got as many birthdays into Assemblyman Koenig. We'll make sure we get some more in before the end of the day. And perhaps the Quattro de Mayo party is really just a surprise party for Assemblyman Koenig. Go ahead, Mr. Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Warren Hardy, today representing the Nevada Urban Consortium, which is made up of the cities of Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Reno, Sparks, and Henderson. Want to thank the sponsor of the bill and those who worked on this bill for working so hard to get us to a place of neutral. Just wanted to provide for your record that we are looking forward to working with the task force as we work through the implementation of this and the city's involvement in the implementation of this. We look forward to being involved in that process. And through you, Madam Chair, happy birthday, Assemblyman.
Thank you. Is there anyone, it doesn't appear there's anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify neutral. Is there anyone on the line, BPS?
Callers, if you would like to testify in neutral for SB 92, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. One moment, Chair.
Good morning, Assembly Committee on Government Affairs. This is Hugh Lee, Hieu, last name Le, constituent of the amazing Assembly District 10 and Senate District 5. Just wanted to testify in neutral. The bill is it looks pretty great on paper. On top of that, yeah, just wanted to testify on neutral and happy birthday.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the line, VPS?
Yes, hi. CYRUSHOJJATY. I just wanted to testify in neutral after opposition because I want to hear their comments before I make a precise decision. Is that okay?
Yep, your time is going, so please begin when you're ready.
Okay, I wanted to give, because I'm not sure if I'm neutral or opposition, I want to hear all the testimonies first, and then I'll make my decision. So, yeah.
So if
All
you
right,
have
I'll
testimony,
just wait.
this is your
It's
time
okay.
to share it. Otherwise, we will go to the next caller.
Okay, well, I just want to point out that I like opportunities for people to make money. I understand the regulatory process can be kind of tough. I understand that, however, I am concerned about food safety, and I am concerned that it is attracting unauthorized immigrants. This process, however, it will stir a lot of jobs away that other American citizens would do. Yeah.
Thank you for your
I
testimony.
think the bill needs to be rewritten, possibly. Yeah.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Haradi. Next caller, please.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to provide neutral testimony at this time.
At this time, I'll invite the bill sponsor for any closing remarks.
Thank you so much. Fabian Iñarte for the record. I just want to thank everyone that came out in support of this bill. It's a bipartisan bill. I think it would help our community out. And I couldn't end without wishing our Assemblyman a happy birthday.
Thank you. I feel like Senator Oñate comes a lot during big celebration days here in the Nevada State Assembly. So thank you for joining us today. At this time, we will go ahead and move on to our last item on the agenda today, which is public comment. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify on public comment? I don't believe there are any here in Carson. Then I'll run it to two at once. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? Does it appear there are any? Members, any remarks before we adjourn? Oh, BPS, is there anyone on the phone wishing to testify in public comment? Thank you.
Callers, if you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you, and thank you, members. Obviously, just a couple of reminders, especially since we don't have floor. Today we have the big Cuatro de Mayo celebration, which will be at the bank at 6 p.m. Be there. Assemblyman MacArthur actually went last legislative cycle, and he was a star dancer. You know, he made his dancing debut. I have pictures of it, so it was definitely true, and I would never lie on the record. I do have proof. I'm happy to share it with you later. That's Cinco de Mayo. And then additionally, we will not be having committee tomorrow because I'm sure you all are going to be working hard well into the evening today. And so we will be reconvening this committee on Tuesday. So I will see you all on Tuesday at 9 a.m. where I expect we're going to actually have a rather long hearing. So thank you. I have the agenda been posted for Tuesday yet? I don't believe the agenda has been posted, but plan for a long one. All right. Thank you. At this time, the meeting is adjourned.